Chapter 12, Balancing. Oh, what fucking voice do I give to Billy? God, it is late tonight. I'm not going to tell you. It's the fucking 11th. I'm on chapter 12. I started back in fucking September, but then the people went away. So I'm a day ahead of it if I want to get it done for your birthday. Even then, there's a fucking epilogue I got to do. So I'm going to have to do at least 2 chapters a day one more time if I want to have it ready by your birthday. It's not mentioning all the editing. I got the first 5 chapters in the preface uploaded already. And I've got up chapter 11 edited, and I've got chapters 6 and 7 exported and ready to be uploaded to YouTube. So I'm not too bad, but I've also got school. Anyways, it's late. I'm gonna have to give a really stupid, fun voice for Billy to keep me up and at him with the energy. This is a longer chapter. I'm trying to think. What's a good voice for Billy? My name's Billy. No, you wouldn't get the reference to that voice. I'm sure. Isn't this a great chapter 12? It's like first fucking minute and a half. I haven't even read anything other than the fucking name. Oh, God. I need you to telepathically beam to me the voice idea you're thinking I should go with. And I'm going to connect to you from the past. And you will beam your thoughts of what Billy's voice should sound like, and we'll see if it works. Okay. Billy! I don't know why the fuck Charlie is not that. Doesn't sound like that. My bad. Billy! What the fuck? Billy! That's... I can't say his name in this... Let me... Hello. Okay. Billy. God damn, why does it sound so wrong? Jesus Christ, I gotta get through this. Okay. Billy, Charlie called as soon as he got out of the car. I turned toward the house, beckoning to Jacob as I ducked under the porch. I heard Charlie greeting them loudly behind me. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to figure out who's saying the next thing, sorry. I heard Charlie greeting them loudly behind me. I'm gonna pretend I didn't see you behind the wheel, Jake, he said disapprovingly. We get permits early on the res, Jacob said while I unlocked the door and flicked on the porch light. All right, am I going to have to give a different voice to Jacob? Because that one's going to be too long if he does too much. Doesn't matter, we're doing with it. We get permits early on the res, Jacob said while I unlocked the door and flicked on the porch light. Sure you do, Charlie laughed. Fuck, I forgot the voice you sent me. I gotta go back. It was, I have to get around somehow. That's the voice Billy has now. I have to get around somehow. I recognized Billy's resonant voice easily, despite the years. The sound of it made me feel suddenly younger, a child. I went inside, leaving the door open behind me and turning on lights before I hung up my jacket. Then I stood in the door, watching anxiously as Charlie and Jacob helped Billy out of the car and into his wheelchair. I backed out of the rain as the 3 of them hurried in, shaking off the... Oh my God, I can't read. I backed out of the way as the 3 of them hurried in, shaking off the rain. Checking. Make sure the recording's going. Okay, it's 4.5 minutes for me to even get to the fucking second page. This is a surprise, Charlie was saying. It's been too long, Billy answered. I hope it's not a bad time. His dark eyes flashed up to me again, their expression unreadable. No, it's great. I hope you can stay for the game. Jacob grinned. I think that's the plan. Our TV broke last week. Billy made a face at his son. And, of course, Jacob was anxious to see Bella again, he added. How's this chapter going? Jesus Christ, this is going to be horrid to listen to. Jacob scowled and ducked his head while I fought back a surge of remorse. Maybe I'd been too convincing on the beach. Are you hungry? I asked, turning toward the kitchen. I was eager to escape Billy's searching gaze. Nah, we ate before we came, Jacob answered. How about you, Charlie? I called over my shoulder as I fled around the computer. Sure, he replied, his voice moving in the direction of the front room and the TV. I could hear Billy's chair follow. The grilled cheese sandwiches were in the frying pan. I got something in my throat. Like a little bit of acid reflux. The grilled cheese sandwiches were in the frying pan, and I was slicing up a tomato when I sensed someone behind me. So, how are things? Jacob asked. Pretty good, I smiled. His enthusiasm was hard to resist. How about you? Did you finish your car? No, he frowned. I still need parts. We borrowed that one. He pointed with his thumb in the direction of the front yard. Sorry, I haven't seen any... What was it you were looking for? Master cylinder, he grinned. Is something wrong with the truck? He added suddenly. No. Oh, I just wondered because you weren't driving it. I stared down at the pan, pulling up the edges of a sandwich to check the bottom side. I got a ride with a friend. Nice ride. Jacob's voice was admiring. I didn't recognize the driver, though. I thought I knew most of the kids around here. I nodded non-committally, keeping my eyes down as I flipped sandwiches. My dad seemed to know him from somewhere. Jacob, could you hand me some plates? They're in the cupboard over the sink. Sure. He got the plates in silence. I hoped he would let it drop now. So, who was it? He asked, setting 2 plates on the counter next to me. I sighed in defeat. Edward Cullen. To my surprise, he laughed. I glanced up at him. He looked a little embarrassed. Gotta pop my thumb. Oh! All right, we're good. Guess that explains it then, he said. I wondered why my dad was acting so strange. That's right. I faked an innocent expression. He doesn't like the Cullens. So is Jacob not a werewolf yet? Is he too young? Is that what is going on? Like, oh, you get a werewolf when you're 16 or some shit? How old is he? 14? I'm just going to pretend that's probably what it is for now. You don't think he'd say anything to Charlie? Jeez, where the fuck am I? That didn't come out right. Superstitious old man, Jacob muttered under his breath. You don't think he'd say anything to Charlie? I couldn't help asking, the words coming out in a low rush. Jacob stared at me for a moment, and I couldn't read the expression in his dark eyes. I doubt it, he finally answered. I think Charlie chewed him out pretty good last time. They haven't spoken much since. Tonight is sort of a reunion, I think. I don't think he'd bring it up again. Oh, I said, trying to sound indifferent. I stayed in the front room after I carried the food out to Charlie, pretending to watch the game while Jacob chattered at me. I was really listening to the men's conversation, watching for any sign that Billy was about to rat me out, trying to think of ways to stop him if he began. It was a long night. I had a lot of homework that was going undone, but I was afraid to leave Billy alone with Charlie. Finally, the game ended. Are you and your friends coming back to the beach soon? Jacob asked as he pushed his father over the lips of the threshold. I'm not sure, I hedged. That was fun, Charlie, Billy said. Come up for the next game, Charlie encouraged. Sure, Billy said. We'll be here. Have a good night. His eyes shifted to mine, and his smile disappeared. You take care, Bella. he added seriously. Thanks, I muttered, looking away. I headed for the stairs while Charlie waved from the doorway.
Wait, Bella,
he said. I cringed. Had Billy gotten something in before I had joined them in the living room? But Charlie was relaxed, still grinning from the unexpected visit. I didn't
I didn't get a chance to talk to you tonight. How was your day? How was your day?
That sounds better.
How was your day?
Good. I hesitated with one foot on the first stair, searching for details I could safely share. My badminton team won all 4 games.
Wow, I didn't know you could play badminton.
Well, actually I can't, but my partner is really good, I admitted.
Who is it?
He asked with token interest. Mike Newton, I told him reluctantly.
Oh, yeah. You said you were friends with the Newton kid.
He perked up.
Nice family.
He mused for a minute.
Why didn't you ask him to the dance this weekend?
Dad, I groaned. He's kind of dating my friend Jessica. Besides, you know I can't dance.
Oh, yeah,
he muttered. Then he smiled at me apologetically.
So I guess it's good you'll be gone Saturday. I've made plans to go fishing with the guys from the station. The weather's supposed to be real warm, but if you wanted to put your trip off till someone could go with you, I'd stay home. I know I leave you here alone too much.
Dad, you're doing a great job. I smiled, hoping my relief didn't show. I never minded being alone. I'm too much like you. I winked at him, and he smiled his crinkly-eyed smile. I slept better that night, too tired to dream again. When I woke to the pearl gray morning, my mood was blissful. The tense evening with Billy and Jacob seemed harmless enough now. I decided to forget it completely. I caught myself whistling while I was pulling the front part of my hair back into a barrette. Or was that a beret? Into a beret, right, the hat. I've just never actually seen it spelled out before. Interesting. I was pulling the front part of my hair back into a beret, and later again as I skipped down the stairs. Charlie noticed.
You're cheerful this morning,
he commented over breakfast. I shrugged. It's Friday. I hurried so I would be ready to go the second Charlie left. I had my bag ready, shoes on, teeth brushed, but even though I rushed to the door as soon as I was sure Charlie would be out of sight, Edward was faster. He was waiting in his shiny car, windows down, engine off. I didn't hesitate this time, climbing in the passenger side quickly, the sooner to see his face. He grinned his crooked smile at me, stopping my breath and my heart. I couldn't imagine how an angel could be any more glorious. There was nothing about him that could be improved upon.
How did you sleep?
Oh God, I was not doing deep enough for Charlie. I apologize. So Edward and Charlie are going to sound way more similar this time. I apologize.
How did you sleep?
He asked. I wondered if he had any idea how appealing his voice was. Fine. How was your night?
Pleasant.
His smile was amused. It felt like I was missing an inside joke.
Can I ask what you did?
I asked.
No.
He grinned.
Today is still mine.
He wanted to know about people today. More about Renee, her hobbies, what we'd done in our free time together. And the one grandmother I'd known, my few school friends... Sorry, read that wrong. And then the one grandmother I'd known, my few school friends, embarrassing me when he asked about boys I'd dated. I was relieved that I'd never really dated anyone, so that particular conversation couldn't last long. He seemed as surprised as Jessica and Angela by my lack of romantic history.
So you never met anyone you wanted?
He asked in a serious tone that made me wonder what he was thinking about. I was grudgingly honest. Not in Phoenix. His lips pressed together into a hard line. We were in the cafeteria at this point. The day had sped by in the blur that was rapidly becoming routine. I took advantage of his brief pause to take a bite of my bagel.
I should have let you drive yourself today, he announced. Apropos of nothing,
Well, I chewed. Why? I demanded.
I'm leaving with Alice after lunch.
Oh. I blinked, bewildered and disappointed. That's okay. It's not that far of a walk. He frowned at me impatiently.
I'm not going to make you walk home. We'll go get your truck and leave it here for you.
I don't have my key with me, I sighed. I really don't mind walking. What I minded was losing my time with him. He shook his head.
Your truck will be here, and the key will be in the ignition, unless you're afraid someone might steal it.
He laughed at the thought. All right, I agreed, pursing my lips. I was pretty sure my key was in the pocket of a pair of jeans I wore Wednesday under a pile of clothes in the laundry room. Even if he broke into my house, or whatever he was planning, he'd never find it. He seemed to feel the challenge in my consent. He smirked, overconfident. So, where are you going? I asked as casually as I could manage.
Hunting,
He answered grimly.
If I'm going to be alone with you tomorrow, I'm going to take whatever precautions I can.
His face grew morose and pleading.
You can always cancel, you know.
I looked down, afraid of the persuasive power of his eyes. I refused to be convinced to fear him, no matter how real the danger might be. It doesn't matter, I repeated in my head. No, I whispered, glaring back at his face. I can't.
Perhaps you're right,
he murmured bleakly. His eyes seemed to darken in color as I watched. I changed the subject. What time will I see you tomorrow? I asked, already depressed by the thought of him leaving now.
That depends. It's a Saturday. Don't you want to sleep in?
He offered. No, I answered too fast. He restrained a smile.
Same time as usual, then?
He decided.
Will Charlie be there?
No, he's fishing tomorrow. I beamed at the memory of how conveniently things had worked out. His voice turned sharp.
And if you don't come home, what will he think?
I have no idea, I answered coolly. He knows I've been meaning to do the laundry. Maybe he'll think I fell in the washer. He scowled at me and I scowled back. His anger was much more impressive than mine.
What are you hunting?
That's Bella. What are you hunting tonight? I asked when I was sure I had lost the glowering contest.
Whatever we find in the park. We aren't going far.
He seemed bemused by my casual reference to his secret realities.
Why are you going with Alla?
Oh my God, I keep doing the voices wrong. Why are you going with Alice? I wondered.
Alice is the most supportive.
He frowned as he spoke. And the others? I asked timidly. What are they? His brow puckered for a brief moment.
Incredulous, for the most part.
No one uses the term incredulous, and it's used in books to describe a look or something. No one actually verbally says incredulous. I peeked quickly behind me at his family. They sat staring off in different directions, exactly the same as the first time I'd seen them. Only now they were four. Their beautiful, bronze-haired brother sat across from me, his golden eyes troubled. They don't like me, I guessed.
That's not it,
he disagreed, but his eyes were too innocent.
They don't understand why I can't leave you alone.
I grimaced. Neither do I, for that matter. Edward shook his... Oh, wait. Read that wrong. That's supposed to be Edward's voice still.
They don't understand why I can't leave you alone.
I grimaced.
Neither do I, for that matter.
Edward shook his head slowly, rolling his eye... Oh, wait, no, that was Bella's talking. Whoopsies. Edward shook his head slowly, rolling his eyes toward the ceiling before he met my gaze again.
I told you, you don't see yourself clearly at all. You're not like anyone I've ever known. You fascinate me.
I glared at him, sure he was teasing me now. He smiled as he deciphered my expression.
Having the advantages I do,
he murmured, touching his forehead discreetly.
I have a better than average grasp of human nature. People are predictable. But you never do what I expect. You always take me by surprise. I looked away, my eyes wandering back to his family, embarrassed and dissatisfied. His words made me feel like a science experiment. I wanted to laugh at myself for expecting anything else. That part is easy enough to explain, he continued. I felt his eyes on my face, but I couldn't look at him yet, afraid he might read the chagrin in my eyes. But there's more, and it's not so easy to put into words. I was still staring at the Cullens while he spoke. Suddenly, Rosalie, his blonde and breathtaking sister, turned to look at me. I'm trying to think. Rosalie, she's the one that has visions, right? Right? This is totally off a guess. I could be wrong. But I'm going to say, you can correct me when you get to this part. You can shoot me a text and say, you have to text me this exactly when you get to this part if I'm wrong. What I'm saying is I think Rosalie's the one that has visions, and that's why in Breaking Dawn, that's the term. Yeah, Breaking Dawn Part 2, when they have that big vampire battle, it's all a vision of what to come. That's not in the books. It's for action, and they just use Rosalie to be like, oh, what did that happen? I believe that's her. If I am wrong, you have to text me this exactly. Byron, you're a big, dumb fucking idiot. You absolute tard. How could you get that wrong? Okay, send that exactly. And more importantly, if I don't recognize immediately what you're texting me about, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, are you good? You cannot acknowledge. You have proof. Next time I see you, you can fucking play it for me. But until you see me in person again, you cannot acknowledge why you called me a piece of shit, fucking dumbass, whatever the fuck I just said. If I'm right, you need to send me a picture of Ronald McDonald sitting on a bench. Again, you cannot give context, and you cannot acknowledge what it was until I'm in person, and call me a fucking idiot for not remembering. Okay. I was still staring at the Cullens while he spoke. Suddenly, Rosalie, his blonde and breathtaking sister, turned to look at me. No, not to look, to glare, with dark, cold eyes. I wanted to look away, but her gaze held me until Edward broke off mid-sentence and made an angry noise under his breath. It was almost a hiss. Rosalie turned her head, and I was relieved to be free. I looked back at Edward, and I knew he could see the confusion and fear that widened my eyes. His face was tight as he explained. I'm sorry about that. She's just worried. You see, it's dangerous for more than just me if, after spending so much time with you publicly, he looked down. If this ends badly. He dropped his head into his hands, as he had that night in Port Angeles. His anguish was plain. I yearned to comfort him, but I was at a loss to know how. My hand reached toward him involuntarily. Quickly, though, I dropped it to the table, fearing that my touch would only make things worse. I realized slowly that his words should frighten me. I waited for that fear to come, but all I could seem to feel was an ache for his pain. And frustration that Rosalie had interrupted whatever he was about to say. I didn't know how to bring it up again. He still had his head in his hands. I tried to speak in a normal voice. And you have to leave now? Yes. He raised his face. It was serious for a moment, and then his mood shifted and he smiled. It's probably for the best. We still have 15 minutes of that wretched movie left to endure in biology. I don't think I could take any more. I started. Alice, her short, inky hair and a halo of spiky disarray around her exquisite elfin face. We hate elves in this household. This is a no leaf lovers area. No leaf lovers allowed. All dude drinkers, all pollen punks must leave the vicinity. Anyways, just had to make sure I was clear about that. Her slight frame was willowy, graceful even, in absolute stillness. He greeted her without looking away from me. Alice?
Fuck, now I got another bit, and I have to think of an actual fucking voice for her. I've been waiting for when I get to the fucking siblings to actually talk, because I know that I'm not thinking about like future books, which I know have more, but I swear to God, there's at least one long scene at like Edward's house with the rest of the family. I swear to God, the vagueness I remember from the movie when I like watched it the one time, really. So I have to fucking, oh God. I've got it. The perfect voice. I can't. It just came to me. This is the perfect voice to use. You're gonna so much agree with me. Edward. No, that wasn't what I meant to do. Edward. She answered, her high soprano voice almost as attractive as his.
Alice, Bella, Alice.
He introduced us, gesturing casually with his hand, a wry smile on his face. Hello, Bella. Her brilliant obsidian eyes were unreadable, but her smile was friendly. It's nice to finally meet you. Edward flashed a dark look at her. Hi, Alice, I murmured shyly. Are you ready? She asked him. His voice was aloof.
Nearly. I'll meet you at the car.
She left without another word. Her walk was so fluid, so sinuous, that I felt a sharp pang of jealousy. Bitch, stop getting horny for the sister of the fucking dude you want to fuck. Should I say have fun, or is that the wrong sentiment? I asked, turning back to him.
No, have fun works as well as anything.
He grinned. Have fun, then. I worked to sound wholehearted. Of course, I didn't fool him.
I'll try.
He still grinned.
And you try to be safe, please.
Safe in Forks. What a challenge.
For you, it is a challenge.
His jaw hardened.
Promise.
I promise to try to be safe, I recited. I'll do the laundry tonight. That ought to be fraught with peril.
Don't fall in,
he mocked. I'll do my best. He stood then, and I rose too. I'll see you tomorrow, I sighed.
Seems like a long time to you, doesn't it?
He mused. I nodded glumly.
I'll be there in the morning,
he promised, smiling his crooked smile. He reached across the table to touch my face, lightly brushing along my cheekbone. And then he turned and walked away. I stared after him until he was gone. I was sorely tempted to ditch the rest of the day, at the very least Jim. But a warning instinct stopped me. I knew that if I disappeared now, Mike and the others would assume I was with Edward, and Edward was worried about the time we'd spent together publicly, if things went wrong. I refused to dwell on that last thought, concentrating instead on making things safer for him. I intuitively knew, and sensed he did too, that tomorrow would be pivotal. Our relationship couldn't continue to balance, as it did, on the point of a knife. He would fall off one edge or the other, depending entirely upon his decision or his instincts. My decision was made before I'd ever consciously chosen, and I was committed to seeing it through, because there was nothing more terrifying to me, more excruciating, than the thought of turning away from him. It was an impossibility. I'm just annoyed now. I'm sorry. It's just reminded me when I had to talk to my fucking friend Josh got broken up with, and he was like, the world's over. Oh, boo. It's like, oh my God. Shut up. It's just one. Anyways, it's just giving me fucking traumatic flashbacks to that shit. I went to class feeling dutiful. I couldn't honestly say what happened in biology. My mind was too preoccupied with thoughts of tomorrow. In gym, Mike was speaking to me again. He wished me a good time in Seattle. I carefully explained that I'd canceled my trip, worried about my truck.
Are you going to the dance with Colin?
He asked, suddenly sulky. No, I'm not going to the dance at all.
What are you doing then?
He asked, too interested. My natural urge was to tell him to butt out. Instead, I lied brightly. Laundry, and then I have to study for the trig test, or I'm going to fail.
Is Colin helping you study?
Edward, I emphasized, is not going to help me study. He's gone away somewhere for the weekend. The lies came more naturally than usual, I noted with surprise.
Oh,
He perked up.
you could come to the dance with our group anyway. That would be cool. We'd all dance with you,
he promised. The mental image of Jessica's face made my tone sharper than necessary. I'm not going to the dance, Mike, okay?
Fine,
He sulked again.
I was just offering.
When the school day had finally ended, I walked to the parking lot with enthusiasm. I did not especially want to walk home, but I couldn't see how he would have retrieved my truck. Then again, I was starting to believe that nothing was impossible for him. The latter instinct proved correct. My truck sat in the same space he'd parked his Volvo in this morning. I shook my head, incredulous, as I opened the unlocked door and saw the key in the ignition. There was a piece of white paper folded on my seat. I got in and closed the door before I unfolded it. 2 words were written in his elegant script. Be safe now, you hear? The sound of the truck roaring to life frightened me. I laughed at myself. When I got home, the handle of the door was locked. The deadbolt unlocked, just as I left it this morning. Inside, I went straight to the laundry room. It looked just the same as I'd left it, too. I dug for my jeans, and after finding them, checked the pockets. Empty. Maybe I'd hung my key up after all, I thought, shaking my head. Following the same instinct that had prompted me to lie to Mike, I called Jessica on the pretense of wishing her luck at the dance. When she offered the same wish for my day with Edward, I told her about the cancellation. She was more disappointed than really necessary for a third-party observer to be. I said goodbye quickly after that. Charlie was absent-minded at dinner, worried over something at work, I guessed, or maybe a basketball game, or maybe he was just really enjoying his lasagna. It was hard to tell with Charlie. Garfield. Dad, I began, breaking into his reverie.
What's that, Belle?
I think you're right about Seattle. I think I'll wait until Jessica or someone else can go with me.
Oh,
He said, surprised.
oh, okay. So do you want me to stay home?
No, Dad, don't change your plans. I've got a million things to do. Homework, laundry. I need to go to the library and the grocery store. I'll be in and out all day. You go and have fun.
Are you sure?
Absolutely, Dad. Besides, the freezer is getting dangerously low on fish. We're down to a 2, maybe 3 years supply.
You're sure easy to live with, Bella.
He smiled. I could say the same thing about you, I said, laughing. The sound of my laughter was off, but he didn't seem to notice. I felt so guilty for deceiving him that I almost took Edward's advice and told him where I would be. Almost. After dinner, I folded clothes and moved another load through the dryer. Unfortunately, it was the kind of job that only keeps hands busy. My mind definitely had too much free time, and it was getting out of control. It fluctuated between anticipation so intense that it was very nearly pain, and an insidious fear that picked at my resolve. I had to keep reminding myself that I'd made my choice, and I wasn't going back on it. I pulled his note out of my pocket much more often than necessary to absorb the 2 small words he'd written. He wants me to be safe, I told myself again and again. I would just hold on to the faith that, in the end, that desire would win out over the others. And what was my other choice? To cut him out of my life? Intolerable. Besides, since I'd come to Forks, it really seemed like my life was about him. But a tiny voice in the back of my mind worried, wondering if it would hurt very much if it ended badly. I was relieved when it was late enough to be acceptable for bedtime. I knew I was far too stressed to sleep, so I did something I'd never done before. I deliberately took unnecessary cold medicine, the kind that knocked me out for a good 8 hours. I normally wouldn't normally wouldn't condone that type of behavior in myself, but tomorrow would be complicated enough without me being loopy from sleep deprivation on top of everything else. While I waited for the drugs to kick in, I cleaned my hair till it was impeccably straight and fussed over what I would wear tomorrow. With everything ready for the morning, I finally lay in my bed. I felt hyper. I couldn't stop twitching. I got up and rifled through my shoebox of CDs until I found a collection of Chopin's Nocturnes. I put that on very quietly and then lay down again, concentrating on relaxing individual parts of my body. Somewhere in the middle of that exercise, the cold pills took effect, and I gladly sank into unconsciousness. I woke early, having slept soundly and dreamlessly thanks to my gratuitous drug use. Though I was well rested, I slipped right back into the same hectic frenzy from the night before. I dressed in a rush, smoothing my collar against my neck, fidgeting with the tan sweater till it hung right over my jeans. I sneaked a swift look out the window to see that Charlie was already gone. A thin, cottony layer of clouds veiled the sky. They didn't look very lasting. I ate breakfast without tasting the food, hurrying to clean up when I was done. I peeked out the window again, but nothing had changed. I had just finished brushing my teeth and was heading back downstairs when a quiet knock sent my heart thudding against my ribcage. I flew to the door. I had a little trouble with the simple deadbolt, but I yanked the door open at last, and there he was. All the agitation dissolved as soon as I looked at his face, calm taking its place. I breathed a sigh of relief. Yesterday's fears seemed very foolish with him here. He wasn't smiling at first. His face was somber. But then his expression lightened as he looked me over, and he laughed.
Good morning,
he chuckled. What's wrong? I glanced down to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything important, like shoes or pants.
We match.
He laughed again. I realized he had a long, light tan sweater on, with a white collar showing underneath, and blue jeans. I laughed with him, hiding a secret twinge of regret. Why did he have to look like a runway model when I couldn't? I locked the door behind me while he walked to the truck. He waited by the passenger door with a martyred expression that was easy to understand. We made a deal, I reminded him smugly, climbing into the driver's seat and reaching over to unlock his door. Where to? I asked.
Put your seatbelt on. I'm nervous already.
I gave him a dirty look as I complied. Where to? I repeated with a sigh.
Take the 101 north, he ordered.
It was surprisingly difficult to concentrate on the road while feeling his gaze on my face. I compensated by driving more carefully than usual through the still sleeping towns.
Were you planning to make it out of Forks before nightfall?
This truck is old enough to be your car's grandfather. Have some respect, I retorted. We were soon out of the town limits, despite his negativity. Thick underbrush and green-swathed trunks replaced the lawns and houses.
Turn right on the 110,
he instructed, just as I was about to ask. I obeyed silently.
Now we drive until the pavement ends.
I could hear a smile in his voice, but I was too afraid of driving off the road and proving him right to look over and be sure. And what's there at the pavement's end? I wondered.
A trail.
We're hiking? Thank goodness I'd worn tennis shoes.
Is that a problem?
He sounded if he'd expected as much. No, I tried to make the lie sound confident, but if he thought my truck was slow...
Don't worry, it's only 5 miles or so, and we're in no hurry.
5 miles. I didn't answer so that he wouldn't hear my voice crack in panic. 5 miles of treacherous roots and loose stones, trying to twist my ankles or otherwise incapacitate me. This was going to be humiliating. We drove in silence for a while as I contemplated the coming horror.
What are you thinking?
He asked impatiently after a few moments. I lied again. Just wondering where we're going.
It's a place I like to go when the weather is nice.
We both glanced out at the windows at the thinning clouds after he spoke. Charlie said it would be warm today.
And did you tell Charlie what we're up to? What you were up to?
He asked. Nope.
But Jessica thinks we're going to Seattle together.
He seemed cheered by the idea. No, I told her you canceled on me, which is true.
No one knows you're with me?
Angrily, now. That depends. I assume you told Alice.
That's very helpful, Bella,
he snapped. I pretended I didn't hear that.
Are you so depressed by Forks that it's made you suicidal?
He demanded when I ignored him. You said it might cause trouble for you, us being together publicly, I reminded him.
So you're worried about the trouble it might cause me if you don't come home?
His voice was still angry and bitingly sarcastic. I nodded, keeping my eyes on the road. He muttered something under his breath, speaking so quickly that I couldn't understand. We were silent for the rest of the drive. I could feel the waves of infuriated disapproval rolling off of him, and I could think of nothing to say. And then the road ended, constricting to a thin foot trail with a small wooden marker. I parked on the narrow shoulder and stepped out, afraid because he was angry with me. I didn't have driving as an excuse not to look at him. 2 more pages? 4 more pages, okay. It was warm now, warmer than it had been in Forks since the day I'd arrived, almost muggy under the clouds. I pulled off my sweater and knotted it around my waist, glad that I'd worn the light, sleeveless shirt, especially if I had 5 miles of hiking ahead of me. I heard his door slam and looked over to see that he'd removed his sweater too. He was facing away from me into the unbroken forest beside my truck.
This way,
he said, glancing over his shoulder at me, I still annoyed. He started into the dark forest. The trail? Panic was clear in my voice as I hurried around the truck to catch up to him.
I said that there was a trail at the end of the road, not that we were taking it.
No trail? I asked desperately.
I won't let you get lost.
He turned then with a mocking smile, and I stifled a gasp. His white shirt was sleeveless, and he wore it unbuttoned, so that the smooth white skin of his throat flowed uninterrupted over the marble contours of his chest. His perfect musculature no longer merely hinted at being... His perfect muscular no longer merely hinted at behind concealing clothes. He was too perfect, I realized with a piercing stab of despair. There was no way this godlike creature could be meant for me. He stared at me, bewildered by my tortured expression.
Do you want to go home?
He said quietly, different pain than mine, saturating his voice.
No.
I walked forward till I was close beside him, anxious not to waste 1 second of whatever time I might have with him.
What's wrong?
He asked, his voice gentle. I'm not a very good hiker, I answered dully. I almost said dolefully. You'll have to be very patient.
I can be patient if I make a great effort.
He smiled, holding my glance, trying to lift me out of my sudden, unexplained dejection. I tried to smile back, but the smile was unconvincing. He scrutinized my face.
I'll take you home, he promised.
I couldn't tell if the promise was unconditional or restricted to an immediate departure. I knew he thought it was fear that upset me, and I was grateful again that I was the one person whose mind he couldn't hear. If you want me to hack 5 miles through the jungle before sundown, you'd better start leading the way, I said acidly. He frowned at me, struggling to understand my tone and expression. He gave up after a moment and led the way into the forest. It wasn't as hard as I had feared. The way was mostly flat, and he held the damp ferns and webs of moss aside for me. When his straight path took us over fallen trees or boulders, he would help me, lifting me by the elbow and then releasing me instantly when I was clear. His cold touch on my skin never failed to make my heart thunder. His cold touch on my skin never failed to make my heart thud erratically. Twice, when that happened, I caught a look on his face that made me sure he could somehow hear it. I tried to keep my eyes away from his perfection as much as possible, but I slipped often. Each time, his beauty pierced through me with sadness. For the most part, we walked in silence. Silence? What the fuck's wrong with me? Occasionally, he would ask a random question that he hadn't gotten to in the past 2 days of interrogation. He asked about my birthdays, my grade school teachers, my childhood pets, and I had to admit that after killing 3 fish in a row, I'd given up on the whole institution. He laughed at that, louder than I was used to, bell-like echoes bouncing back to us from the empty woods. The hike took me most of the morning, but he never showed any signs of impatience. The forest spread out around us in a boundless labyrinth of ancient trees, and I began to be nervous that we would never find our way out again. He was perfectly at ease, comfortable in the green maze, never seeming to feel any doubt about our direction. After several hours, the light that filtered through the canopy transformed, the murky olive tone shifting to a brighter jade. The day had turned sunny, just as he'd foretold. For the first time since we'd entered the woods, I felt a thrill of excitement, which quickly turned to impatience. "Are we there yet?" I teased, pretending to scowl.
"Nearly."
She smiled at the change in my mood.
"Do you see the brightness ahead?"
I peered into the thick forest. Should I?" He smirked.
"Maybe it's a bit too soon for your eyes."
Now I get to rip into Suzanne. I keep wanting to say Suzanne Collins. That's fucking Hunger Games. Stephanie Meyer's lack of medical knowledge. If there was some light, they would both be able to see it. The only reason she wouldn't be able to see something that he couldn't, that's a light source, not small details, but a light source, a noticeable enough one that it would mark that there was a clearing coming up, that kind of light source, they'd both be able to see it unless he can see an infrared or some other. The only way he could do it is if he has eyesight that he sees way better in the, like, obviously seeing way better in the dark, but that also means like low levels of light appear brighter to him in a sort of way. And also that darker planes appear much darker, even though he can see through them. Because the human eye, I think it's either 5 to 10 miles, but if you were on a flat land, if you were on a like completely flat land, no curvature of the earth, nothing, I think it was said that if it was also pitch black, you could see a single match be lit from like 5 to 10 miles away. It's one of those two. So if it was light, she could fucking see it if there was a clearing coming up. Suzanne Collins, you dumb bitch. "Time to visit the optometrist," I muttered. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You're going to get on me immediately, but hold on. I just remembered I'm not Suzanne Collins. She's a dumb bitch too. Why the fuck are they making another Hunger Games prequel about Stephanie Myers? Stephanie Myers is a dumb, stupid bitch. "Time to visit the optometrist," I muttered. His smirk grew more pronounced. But then, after another 100 yards, I could definitely see a lightning in the trees ahead, a glow that was yellow instead of green. I picked up the pace, my eagerness growing with every step. He let me lead now, following noiselessly. I reached the edge of the pool of light and stepped through the last fringe of ferns into the loveliest place I had ever seen. The meadow was small, perfectly round, and filled with wildflowers, violet, yellow, and soft white. Somewhere nearby, I could hear the bubbling music of a stream. The sun was directly overhead, filling the circle with the haze of buttery sunshine. I walked slowly, awestruck, through the soft grass, swaying flowers, and warm, gilded air. I halfway turned, wanting to share this with him, but he wasn't behind me where I thought he'd be. I spun around, searching for him with sudden alarm. Finally, I spotted him, still under the dense shade of the canopy at the edge of the hollow, watching me with cautious eyes. Only then did I remember what the beauty of the meadow had driven from my mind. The enigma of Edward and the sun, which he'd promised to illustrate for me today. I took a step back toward him, my eyes alight with curiosity. His eyes were wary, reluctant. I smiled encouragingly and beckoned to him with my hand, taking another step back to him. He held up a hand in warning, and I hesitated, rocking back onto my heels. Edward seemed to take a deep breath, and then he stepped out into the bright glow of the midday sun. End chapter 12. But before we go, let's see, I just finished. We're on page 60 now. Let me double check how many pages there are, including the epilogue. Man, where the fuck is the epilogue in? 498. The epilogue ends at 498. And then the rest of the book is a peek in a new moon. That means we have officially crossed over the halfway mark. It's a little bit, it wouldn't be quite 248. Or 249, sorry, 249. Just because, you know, how the preface, with the preface and everything, there's a couple pages that have, like, the preface is that, and then the official book doesn't start until page 3 to 4. I think page 3. I did not mean to turn my PlayStation on just now. Don't go. You'll get to the next chapter soon. I won't. It'll be another couple. It'll be a whole another fucking day till I get to that myself. But you will get to hear it in a couple of minutes. Well, maybe you're just doing a chapter a day, or you're driving, and you're about to be finished for the day, or anything like that. But before you go, we're gonna celebrate getting halfway through. Celebration for me because it means I'm about halfway through the work. And hopefully a celebration for you because I'm genuinely going to be fucking heartbroken if you do not listen to this whole thing in a reasonable-ish enough amount of time. I'm not expecting it to be done in a week, maybe not even a month, but just progress needs to be made, you fucking bitch. Is this still recording? It is still recording. Now, let's celebrate. How do we want to celebrate? I know how we'll celebrate. I know exactly how we'll celebrate. Oh, this is going to be so fun. I'm pulling it up right now. Are you excited? Say you're excited. That's right. This is not actually recording. It's live. I can hear you. Tell me how excited you are in 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, me too. I'm exactly the same amount of excited as you are. Oh my God, we're like so similar. If I can fucking remember what I was doing. We're like so similar. Okay, I'm going to count down from 3 with how similar we are, and then we're going to say the same number at the exact same time. Are you ready? I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go, and after go, spat out your number. We're going to say the same numbers. We're on the same line. 3, 2, 1, go. 589. Oh my God, we said the same thing. And if we didn't say the same thing, you're not my sister anymore. I'm sorry. Okay, time for a celebration that took forever. After the war, I went back to New York. I finished up my studies and I practiced law. Bird worked next door. You're gonna sing with me. At the same time, Alexander Hamilton began to climb. How to account for his rise to the top? Man, the man is non-stop. To the jury, I'm curious, bear with me. Are you or we're making history? I'm losing it. A brand new nation, the behind the liberation. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm losing it. This is innocent. Call your first witness. That's all you had to say. Okay, one more thing. Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room? Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room? Why do you assume you're the smartest in the room? Soon that attitude may be your doom. Why do you write like you're running out of time? Write day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time. Keep on fighting in the meantime, non-stop. Okay, after this next part, you're gonna go by yourself, okay? When I get silent the next time, it's gonna be you for a couple seconds. You're gonna sing just yourself. I practiced the law, I practically perfected it. I've seen injustice in the world and I've corrected it. Now for a strong central democracy, if not, then I'll be Socrates, throwing my verbal rocks in mediocrities. Go! Awesome proposes his own form of government, his own plan for a new form of government. Talks for 6 hours, the convention is listless. Right, young man, yo, who the F is this? Why do you always say what you believe? Why do you always say what you believe? Every proclamation guarantees the ammunition for your enemies. Why do you write like it's going out of style? Write day and night like it's going out of style. Every day you fight like it's going out of style. Do what you do. Alexander Aaron Burr, sir, it's the middle of the night. Can we confer, sir? Is this a legal matter? Yes, and it's important to me. What do you need? Burr, you're a better lawyer than me. Okay. I talk too much. I'm abrasive. You're incredible in court. You're succinct, persuasive. The client needs a strong defense. You're the solution. The new U.S. Constitution? No. Hear me out? No way. Series of essays anonymously published, defending the document to the public. No one will read it. I disagree. What failed, Bert? That's why we need it. Constitution's a mess, so it needs amendments. So is independence. We have to start somewhere. No way. You're making a mistake. Good night. Hey, what are you waiting for? What do you stall for? What won the war? What was it all for? Do you support this Constitution? Of course. What? And what if you're backing the wrong horse? Burr, we fought and we killed for the notion of a nation we now get to build. For once in your life, take a stand with pride. I don't understand how you stand to the side. Go. You killed it. You killed that shit so hard. I could hear it. I'm turning off to London. I am accompanied by someone who always pays. I found a wealthy husband who will keep me in comfort for all my days. He is not a lot of fun, but there's no one who can match you for turn of phrase. My Alexander. It was me. I did that. You probably couldn't tell the difference between me and the album. Where we started, the fact that you're alive is a miracle. Just stay alive, that would be enough. And if your life could share a fraction of your time, if I could grant you peace of mind, wouldn't it be enough?
Alexander joins forces with James Madison and
I'm not
John
going to
Jay
repeat it.
write a series of essays defending the new United States
Not really.
Constitution entitled the Federalist.
I'm expecting you're getting this whole speech, though, with the beat. Otherwise, fake fan.
Divided evenly among the three men.
I have no idea if you can even hear the actual fucking music.
85 essays in the span of 6 months. John Jay got sick after writing 5. James Madison wrote 29. Hamilton wrote
The other 51! How do you write like you're running out of time? Write day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time. Like you're running out of time. Are you running out of time? How do you write like tomorrow won't arrive? How do you write like you need it to survive? How do you write every second you're alive? Every second you're alive. Every second you're alive. They are asking me to lead. I'm doing the best I can to get the people what they need. Continue to be my right hand, treasury or state, treasury or state. Well, you know, you want me to run the treasury or state department?
Treasury. Let's go.
Alexander,
I have to leave.
Alexander, look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. Helpless, asking me to leave. Look around, isn't this enough? He will never be satisfied. He will never be satisfied. Satisfied. History has its eyes on you. I don't know which one of these I'm supposed to sing, so. Has its eyes on you. Not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am Alexander Hamilton, just you wait.